Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Hello, hello, hello. It's Monday. It is Monday. Monday. So happy Monday. Come on in, come on in. Make sure to tag somebody else to let them know we are live and we ready to rock and roll. I appreciate y'all joining in. It is indeed a Monday. And so I am ever so grateful that you all took the time out to join us here on Real Resilient Conversations. I am your host, Miss Quita. And of course, I just wanted to take the time out to celebrate what actually today, October 28th is. First of all, it's my uncle's pre-birthday. So happy birthday, Uncle Phil. The other is that it is Champagne and Chocolate Day. So if you got some champagne at the house, you got some chocolate, go ahead and treat yourself. October 28th is Happy Champagne and Chocolate Day. And of course, fun fact, if you didn't know, today is also the day that the Statue of Liberty was inducted in New York City. Imagine that, huh? And so just taking the time out to be grateful for the opportunity to know where we are, the things that we have to be thankful for. Every day, find something to be grateful for. Because it is always the present is your present. So be grateful for your present. So with that being said, please make sure that you tag somebody, let them know we're live, we're ready to go. I am here. I know we always have a couple minutes where I let y'all come on in, let me know where you're viewing from, who you are, who invited you. I just like to make sure and give props where props are due and take the time out to say thank you. And so I really want to say also for this week, please be safe with everything going on in the world. I really want my family, you all, my Real Resilient Conversation crew, to come on back safely. So be careful with your friends, family, and of course your children. All right, so if it is your first time, welcome to Real Resilient Conversations. I'm your host, where we do this every second and fourth, guys. And I know sometimes you're like, well, when is the second? Just look on the calendar. If it's not a full Monday week, we are the next, you go into the second one of the full week, okay? Second and fourth, where we take 30 minutes to really let you know how to use resiliency in a weird, unique, quirky kind of way, using topics that are catchy, but also that are ways to catch your attention. So that way it gets you to think a little bit more, okay? And so as we get ready to give you your end of month fill up, it is the end of October. Just in case you're watching on live, then welcome. But if you're watching on rebroadcast, we're doing this in the month of October. So don't be afraid is, of course, where it comes from. All right. And of course, we're going to tie that into your resiliency. So whether you're watching live, watching a rebroadcast, snuggled up alone, by yourself with your special somebody, with your fur babies, whomever it may be. We want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. If it is your first time hangout, see if this is the type of teaching that you enjoy. If it is not, make sure that you share it with someone else who they may enjoy it, right? And so we want to go ahead and keep this thing rolling because I have a lot of information and a short time to do it. Always a lot of information. But I want to tell you, thank you for giving me 30 minutes of your time. I know everybody's time is divided and that you are in many different places doing many different things. So I thank you for joining. So with that being said, who thinks or tell me in your opinion, what don't be afraid, what does what don't be afraid have to do with your resiliency, right? And while you're doing that, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. And it may only take a second for you to do, but it means the world to me. So, hi, Grandma. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. And take the time out to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think Don't Be Afraid has to do with your resiliency? And I mean, resiliency looks different for a lot of different people. And so Don't Be Afraid is going to come across differently for different people, right? And so whenever you're thinking about it, I really want you to think about how in your life, what areas in your life have you felt afraid and that you did not feel like you had the proper support or knowledge on how to deal with those fears that come along um, with being afraid, right? How do you deal with it? And so today we're really going to take a little hop, skip, and boogie around, show you some things that we can really talk about on dealing with your resiliency and fear. And so anybody? Nobody? All right, we're going to keep going. So, of course, when we're talking about don't be afraid, when you're talking about it, fear comes in many different, it looks different, right? And because it looks so different, being afraid can look like emotional suppression and things that we don't allow ourselves to feel or see or express because, right, we find ways to distract ourselves from it. And I have to also admit that I feel like I may actually be dealing in some areas that cause me to allow myself to be distracted, right? So that way I don't have to deal with the things that I feel like are wandering around in my brain. If I give myself too many distractions, I don't have time to deal with it. And that's a fear, right? Of having to actually tackle those things head on. And so that also can lead to isolation. And when you're talking about isolation, due to your emotional suppression, how is that affecting your day-to-day life, right? Your quality of life is it may or may not be suffering all because you have been suppressing what you feel, how you feel, when you feel it. And so that also can go into managing your healthy emotions. So because you don't know how to deal with your negative emotions or your complex emotions, let's call them that. When you don't know how to deal with your complex emotions, or even to be able to say, today's not a good day, or I'm feeling this way, or I want this, because you're afraid if you say it, then those healthy emotions may come across as like you're angry. You can be angry, but don't let it linger, right? Because that's just being honest. So being angry, being frustrated, being heartbroken, being emotional overall, being able to express that and feel comfortable in saying that are very, very important key factors. And that's something that we're going to hit on today. All right. Being afraid can also impair your decision making skills because you don't know what to feel. You don't allow yourself to feel them, and so then your emotions play a factor into things that you should be making decisions about. Instead, you push them to the side and you don't make a decision at all. No decision is a decision. Okay, just for future reference. Relationships issues on all levels, whether that be relationships with your children, relationships with your parents, relationships with your spouse, relationships with your friends, your coworkers, your business partners, right? Relationships, all of that can play a factor if you don't deal with the fear factor that's causing you to be afraid, right? Physical symptoms usually are a outcome of you not being able to deal with your fears and your frustrations and dealing with those emotions on a healthy level. It can come out in a physical nature, all because we don't know how to properly deal with those emotions. So the physical symptoms, it can hinder our personal growth and relationships with others, our connection with others. And this usually leads to things like the fight or flight response. When we don't know about our fight or flight response, that just means that now you have your heart is beating faster, you're sweating, your muscles are tense, all because you don't know whether to go ahead and deal with this or to run. And because with either way that you go, you're still going to have a response that comes out of it. And so I really want you to think about the mental health concerns that come along with it, because a lot of us, and if you notice, I say us because I don't want you to feel that you're alone in this, right? And because a lot of us are dealing with anxiety, depression, trouble sleeping, trouble eating, having issues with your stress, and not knowing how to balance out your work life stress levels, right? And so now, because of it, we are afraid of how to deal with it because we don't know if we make the right decision or the wrong decision and how that affects our families, our friends, our relationships, our finances, right? And so I really think, in my personal opinion, my personal relationships, I have seen that my biggest fear is being alone, not being alone like in my house alone, but being alone in life, like not having a life partner. And that monophobia really affects my relationship. So I usually give people a window, like, and the older you get, then the smaller, this is gonna sound real bad, but the shorter your patience is. And so you're like, I don't have time to deal with crud, bull crap, right? If it's not going to get me to my intended outcome. And so that being alone affects your social life because then do you go out? For people that are afraid to be alone, period, they're always on the go. They always need to be around people because they don't know how to be alone. All right. Or because they like to be alone, they don't want to be around other people, right? There's so many different ways that fear comes when it's talking about being alone that we need to tackle, and we have to dissect that, probably when we have a little bit more time, right? It can affect our social life, our careers, not being accepted, feeling judged, feeling like you have to look a certain way. Your body type has to be a certain way. If you got a little stomach, he's not gonna want to be with you. He's gonna go with the chick that got the flat stomach. Dudes feeling like they gotta have all these muscles, and if he's not cut and chiseled and got a full beard that's not, splotchy or whatever, don't have all of his hair, then she gonna go with a dude that got hair, that got muscles, and that got, that's making 7 figures a year. It's all sometimes in our head, in our fears of how our hair type should be. We need to have straight hair. If we have kinky hair, we don't have good hair. There's so many things that are causing fear within us that we don't talk about. And we don't talk about it because we've been taught to, or we've been told to not show these type of emotions, not to share the things that we're afraid of, not to, because then people will use it against you. But if you are not able to be transparent at any point, at every point, you are hindering yourself, if that makes sense. Worried about your finances. So if you have a job that's going to pay enough, worried about if you have to live paycheck to paycheck, are you going to be able to take care of your children, your bills, yourself, right? And still feel that you're worthy, right? The inadequacy that falls with the fear when it comes to your finances. Your living situations. Are you afraid of being single all of your life? Are you afraid that your marriage is not working, or that you won't ever get married? Are you just going to be a serial dater for the rest of your life, right? Your living situations. Are you divorced? Do you have children that come in and out of the house? Are you living with roommates or still living with your parents? All of their living situations, right, that can cause people to feel inadequate or afraid to share and be transparent. Or they're afraid of what people will think of them whenever they share these things, right? What about if you have a chronic disease or some type of disease? Are you comfortable with sharing that with your friends, family, your intimate partners? Right? Are you comfortable enough to share it, or are you afraid of what they will think of you, of how they will treat you, of being disowned, disliked, separated? Right? Whatever that might look like. Are we afraid, and do we know how to deal with those fears? Failure, like I said, being afraid of failing, of being inadequate, of feeling like you're embarrassed, or the rejection that comes from behind it. Now you don't have the mate or the spouse that you thought you would have because they have rejected you, right? Um, you need your muscles, Mr. Bondin. I hear you. I hear you. Having those muscles are important because you don't want to feel embarrassed or you don't want to feel rejected. I got you. I got you. Feeling like you're underperforming because of the fear. Sometimes fear can stifle your growth in a lot of different pathways. But when you feel like you're underperforming in your intimacy level, in your financial level, your mental, emotional, spiritual levels, what levels do you feel like you're underperforming? And is it due to fear? That's only a question you can answer. And because of the isolation, our success, being afraid to succeed, you isolate. Because if you don't succeed, then you don't have to worry because people haven't seen you. They don't really know you. They don't know what role you play. Right. But if you isolate, then you only worry about you. You only worry about who's in your bubble, and that's it. Is that safe? Is that necessary? Is that hindering you from growing because you are not willing to step outside of your comfort zone? So now you're afraid of success. You're afraid to be a millionaire because you don't know if you're going to be responsible with the money. You're afraid to be a millionaire because you don't want to be robbed. You're afraid to be a millionaire because you don't know who your real friends are. You're afraid of success. Ask yourself, is that one of your fears? Are you afraid of healing? All right. Me and my best friend talked about, hey, Miss Butterfly, how you doing? Good to see you. Me and my best friend, we talked about healing and how she said, I will never date a man that's not healed again. The difference between dating someone who is healed versus a unhealed person. An unhealed person that's afraid to battle those things or deal with those traumas that cause them to act the way that they act, treat their spouse the way that they choose to treat them, right? The idea of finding a healed person to have life discussions with changes your perspective of who you are and what you have been accepting versus what you are due, if that makes sense. Right? But people are afraid to heal because it's easier for them to play the victim, right? It challenges their victimology ideal, right? And then it makes them work harder. They have to actually take responsibility in doing what in healing, right? And so most of the time we are in survival mode versus thriving mode. I don't know about you, but for me, I want to be thriving, right? I want to thrive and I want to feel like I am growing and becoming the best version of Quita and the best version of feeling the blank, your name, right? Be the best version of who you are. Otherwise, then you find yourself neglecting yourself, putting yourself always on the back burner. This is something I'm even learning about myself. I will break my back for other people, but when it comes to breaking my back for me, I have nothing left. I have no energy left. When you're talking about being in a safe space, right? People are afraid because they've been in abusive relationships. They've been in abusive households, neglectful households, right? And it's the fear of the unknown. You don't know if the decision that you make today is going to affect you, your family, your friends, everybody down the line that may have any type of contact in what you do, in who you are, your family, your children's lives, all because of the decision that you make. So the fear of the unknown plays a big factor in our fears, and how we release them really are it's really about going back to regulating your emotions and understanding how to regulate your emotions. If you don't know how, find people and surround yourself with people that you feel are balanced in how they express their emotions, how they express how they feel, what they feel, when they feel it, right? And be uncomfortable with those moments that you're like, why would you tell me how you're feeling? Why would you tell me that you miss me or that you love me or that you really need to be around me? Like, why would you tell me that? Like, nobody wants to hear that. Yes, somebody needs to hear it. And it may just be you that needs to hear that, right? And so I really, really, really want you to take time out to just hug yourself and appreciate yourself where you are and the journey that you've come through and really have come to. Right? You have to release loads that no longer belong to you. For so many years, we've carried other people, we've carried other things to make it easier for someone else, only to make it harder for us. If we don't take the time out to do that, do self care, pray, stretch, right? Take the time to elevate ourselves, to appreciate ourselves, to journal, to create goals in smaller bites, things that are attainable, that are realistic. We put ourselves in a bind mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? All of our fears now become bound up and it's in like a big ball. And you're hoping that it's just going to be able to bounce and you can bounce it back into something else. And yet sometimes when you get ready to throw that thing to the ground, then it bursts. And what you thought was a ball is truly just a beehive. And now you are fighting off the things that you didn't even know you were afraid of. Take some time to do some deep breathing, some yoga, cognitive behavioral health, right? Hey, Oscar, nice to see you over on the Instagram side. Looking at taking those times to really understand your thought process and your thinking and your behaviors and how it affects your life. And is that a time for you to really go into exposure therapy? And exposure therapy is simply just finding a safe space to be able to deal with your fears, right? It's in a controlled environment. And if at any point you say stop or I'm not ready, then you're able to stop and pull away. This is where exposure therapy can help for some and can traumatize for others. Just find out which one works for you. Lifestyle changes, looking at how you're eating, looking at the people that you surround yourself with, getting enough sleep, making sure that you're eating a balanced diet, reducing or avoiding caffeine and alcohol altogether. If it is causing more stress, then you need to remove it out of your life or decrease it, make it very minimal to where it's controlled. That makes sense so far? If we can avoid, we have to reduce our avoidance. And so I realized that a lot of times I was doing this. I was avoiding people, places, and things that reminded me that were triggers. And so I slowly had to allow myself to be around people that use Listerine. I had to slowly be able to be around cars that were stick shifts and smaller cars that had a drop top with certain things that I knew were triggers for me. I had to slowly allow myself to see it, feel it, deal with it. Certain colognes, I had to be able to deal with it. Certain songs, I had to learn how to deal with it. I could only do the song for a couple seconds, and if it was too much, then I backed off of it. Find out what works for you, right? But don't avoid it altogether. Don't avoid the things that cause fear to you. You want to practice being positive. So even when you do win, those small wins, celebrate yourself. Say, look, you could have went and avoided it, and yet you tackled that thing head on. Maybe not all the way, but just a little bit. That was enough. I'm proud of you for doing it. And I usually see this a lot. If all you did was held it together today, you're still winning. I'm very proud of you. Because today, that's all I did. I just held it together. I didn't feel like I was productive. I didn't feel like I did anything else but hold it together. So I'm still winning. Right? Find a person that you feel comfortable talking to, whoever your best friend is, your mom, your uncles, your aunties, your cousins. Find someone, your therapists, your pastors, your preachers, your ministers, your teachers. Find someone that you are comfortable talking to and help to express that you don't know how to deal with these fears. Maybe they're the person that you need to help you get through it, right? Imagine yourself in places that are relaxing and that are safe for you. When you're taking the time out to do this self-care time, go to that safe space for yourself. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel safe and comfortable and realize the things that you did great today. So I don't want you to wait for the perfect moment, right? I don't want you to wait for the perfect moment. Um, Dr. Sully, can you make sure that I can see? It says new comments, but I'm not able to see on the right. If you're able to show me those as well. I'm not sure why. How you doing, Frederick? Good to see you, sir. Mr. McDonald. So I don't want you to wait for the perfect moment. If you wait for the perfect moment, you'll lose interest. You'll get old. Let's say older. That sounds better. You'll get older. You'll regret not doing the things that you had the chance or the opportunity to do. Right here on the comment section, you see, and not a touch screen. And so life continues to go by, and so your turn will also go by. Your days will turn into nights. Every opportunity that you had will no longer be there. People will grow apart. People will grow up. And people will find different ways and find different pathways, right? And because then the words will go unsaid. All because you didn't take the opportunity. Don't miss out on the opportunity. Your time is too valuable to waste. Your time is too valuable to waste. I don't know if I've said this or not, but I'm often overstimulated, overwhelmed. That doesn't stop me, right? From getting to my goal, from being able to give exactly 150% of who I am. The problem is that sometimes I give too much to the wrong thing. I give the energy to the wrong areas in my life, and then that causes me to feel drained. So then I feel like I have to go to the things we talked about earlier, caffeine, being out and about, because I haven't had the time to regenerate and resurface myself. Now, it's a lot of days I'm better off at home. I feel more at peace if I'm just at home, right? Find out your safe space, right? Which is why I don't allow a lot of people into my safe space. I don't allow them into my homes because my home is my peace, and my safe space. And different energy, different people, different spirits come along with different people, right? And so don't be afraid to be happy, to be healthy, to be educated, to be wealthy even, right? No one can scare a person who isn't afraid, right? That's not afraid of being alone, of starting a business, of losing people, right? Who doesn't care what other people think. They're not afraid of it. And if you're not that person, maybe be that person for a little bit until you can find the peace in releasing how you feel. Because a lot of times we're like, well, I'm going to just go along with it to keep the peace. I don't want to deal with the conflict. And most of the time it's because we have been taught, our traumas have taught us to not deal with the confrontation. And so I plead with you, right, to really look at your past traumas, your strict upbringings, the environments that caused you to be discouraged, where your emotions were shut down, and even the idea of being perfect. If someone has told you that you have to be perfect, you have to look a certain way, you have to dress a certain way, you have to smell a certain way, yeah, in order for people to like you, to accept you, to appreciate you. Think about if that's really how you want to be viewed, only by a certain way, right? One of my best friends, Crystal, showed me one of the celebrities that went and had plastic surgery, and she was a beautiful woman even before it. But the need to feel more like someone else and not even to be appreciated in who they are, where they were, caused a lot of shock. I mean, and the people that knew who she was before, like, well, why? You were beautiful already. And then for you to go about this drastic change to look like where people say Oh, you need to look this way. You need to dress this way. Your hair needs to be this way. And if you're not, then you're not accepted in the party. Create your own party, right? Thank you, Crystal. I see you on. So I know we're out of time. I went over by a couple minutes, but I really want you to think about everything that I said in tonight's show. I hope that you enjoyed it. If there was something that I said to you tonight that helped you, please share it, like, subscribe. If it wasn't for you, but it was for someone else that you think would benefit from this, please send it to them. We here at Real Resilient Conversations and at excuse me, here at Real Resilient Consulting, we really take the time out to thank you for those things. You don't have to do it, but you did. And once again, if you take the time to really share it, like it, subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell notification. I promise every time we put something out, you will be the first to know. So until we meet again, I want to say thanks to my Real Resilient Conversation crew. You are you are the everything for this brand, right? Without you, it means nothing. And so I really do thank you for joining us on today. Come back on the 11th of November. 11 November. Go ahead and put it in your phones now. Go ahead and remind yourself. 11 November at 8:30 Central Standard Time. 11 November, we are going to talk about grateful or versus grateful. Don't want to miss out on this. Great and full versus grateful. We are really going to take it there because I know we're getting into the season. The holiday seasons are coming, and I really want you to think about the season, but think about how it is affecting your resiliency as well. So until then, we will have a great discussion. It's good to be good when God has called you to be great. So just think about that until we meet again, okay? Love, peace, joy, and happiness. I pray unto you until we meet again. See you soon.